this one here.
Yes, so there's another.
Just get on. So it's the paper. Yeah, let's go. That's great. Thank you. Okay. All the way around. But the rabbi's going this way, so you guys must hear my better.
No, it's for me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I promise it's not that cold in the shade. But you're going to hear much better if you come forward. And the family's been seated, so there are a few extra chairs. And one last item is if I can remind everyone to please turn off your cell phones for the service.
Who else needs a copy? Guys, come on, close. Who else needs a copy of the service? There are a couple more chairs here too, guys. Here. You good? So for all of you who are here, say Bruchim Habayim B'Shem Adonai. Blessed are you. You come here to, yes, to pay respect for Roselle Leviton, to honor an Ashet Chayil, a woman of valor, a strong and fun and enthusiastic and energetic person who touched all of our lives. But you're also here to bring comfort to Fred and to Neil and to Ann and Wendy and all the family. For those of you who are here, know how important it was to all of the families to look up and to see your faces and to get your hugs, except for you with the mask, no hugs. But that's okay. Your presence here speaks volumes also. And there are a lot of loved ones also online, which is why we're here, and Feldman has made it possible for there to be a live stream of it as well. We all have things that we want to share, both today at this service, and later on this afternoon at Fred and Ann's home. And we'll have an opportunity. The family has chosen a few people to share some words of tribute, and I have some thoughts as well. And we will all be invited to share memories when we get back to Ann and Fred's right after the service. And there'll be food there and the Shiva, and we'll share memories. But at this moment, as we are here to say our final prayers, we wanted everyone's voices to be heard also. So I put together this little prayer booklet that has words and memories and prayers and sentiments that I hope will be meaningful to all of you and especially to the family. We're going to begin with a prayer that is not in your handout, but one that is sung by Ruthie Lipschultz. She's our new cantorial soloist at Temple Sinai. And it's Shaviti Adonai Ledek.
Sheviti Adonai, Ledet Mimini Lachin Semahi Be'aged Maudi Afisavish Leviton So Bassemahot et Panepa Imot Feminim Adesso Sheviti Adonai Ledei
Shaviti comes from the 16th Psalm. The psalmist said, I have set the eternal always before me. God is at my side and I shall not be moved. Therefore does my heart exalt and my soul rejoices. My being is secure. For you will not abandon me to death, nor let your faithful one see destruction. You show me the path of life. Your presence brings fullness of joy. Enduring happiness is your gift. You might think of this psalm that speaks of enduring happiness and celebration of life. Where is its place at a time of loss? Where is its place at a funeral? And yet, Roselle's life and her joy was in with you. And we remember her with that joy. Remember her with the sweetness. Find the warmth, not just in those scarves that she knitted all of, but also in the smile that she had every time she saw you. So let us remember her with that joy, because that's how she will live on. Enduring is that happiness that she's given us. So on that first page, we'll read responsibly. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. That next page is the 23rd Psalm. Psalm that is expressed in so many different, for so many different people, different things, that embodies that same spirit that, yea, though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death, we're not going to live in fear. We're going to find some reason to lift up our hearts and those around us with every ounce of strength that we have.
Adonai Rohi, Roetzar, Inot Shekar Yitzri, Come kielech, the gates of Moabit, lo irara yatayim adi. Shiftecha unishantecha, Eleya kumuni. Taruch lefanai shulchan, neged sonai, ishanta Hashem od Moshe. Ozir, my Lord, Aktov HaChesed, Yidufuni, Kol Yamei Hayat. Vishavti bebeit Adonai.
Let's read those words in English. We're at the top of page 2 on the left-hand side, and we say, a Psalm of David. Adonai, you are my shepherd, I shall not want. You give me rest in green pastures and lead me beside still waters. Restore my soul and guide me in straight paths for the sake of your name. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You have anointed my head with oil. My cup runs over with bounty. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. And I shall dwell in the house of Adonai. A woman of valor who can find. She's more precious than fine pearls. Her husband trusts in her and he lacks nothing. She does him good, never harm all the days of her life. She perceives that her labor is rewarding. Her candle burns on into the night. She reaches out to those in need and extends her hand to the poor. She's clothed in strength and dignity. She faces the future cheerfully. She speaks with wisdom. The law of kindness is on her lips. Her children rise up and bless her. Her husband sings her praises. Many daughters have done valiantly. You excel them all. So many of these characteristics of the Ashet Chayil, the woman of valor, the clothed in dignity, the same blouse in every single color, and her hands working well into the night, making yet another scarf or something for a loved one, collecting things just to be able to give them to loved ones who never you have that opportunity. A woman of generosity and sweetness and joy. That's Roselle. Kohelet is on the top of page 3, and it reminds us that there is a season for everything, and that at some point we have in Colorado all 4 seasons in one day. There's sunshine, warmth, and cool, and snow, and everything all mixed in this fall day, this first day of December. It's not the weather that changes, it's the chapters in our life and our life experiences. And so one of the keys in this passage is that passage that says, that line that says there's a time for tearing, a time for sowing. At the very beginning, we tore the kriya. We had that ribbon that is placed on your chest as a sign of mourning. And the gathering of loved ones, that's the time of healing and of sowing. We read first in the Hebrew, Zman be'et lechol chevet zakat hashamayim, ela ledet be'et lamut. In English, we say, a season is set for everything, a time for every experience under heaven, a time for being born and a time for dying, a time for planting and a time for uprooting the plant, a time for slaying and a time for healing, a time for tearing down and a time for building up, a time for weeping, a time for laughing, a time for grieving and a time for dancing, a time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones, a time for embracing and a time for refraining from embraces, a time for seeking, a time for losing, a time for keeping, a time for letting go, a time for tearing, a time for sowing, a time for silence, a time for speaking. I want to share a few words at the very beginning, and we'll call up Fred, who's older than me. It's being recorded. There are those who teach that it is the circumstances of one's childhood that greatly determines a person's character and spirit. That parents and home life, prosperity and stability are what shapes us. Perhaps that is true for many. But Roselle Simons Leviton developed her tremendous joy and enthusiasm for life from within her. Roselle was the daughter of Henry, Hank Simons, and Cecilia, the sister of Charles. She was born in Oak Park, Illinois, and grew up in Rogers Park, a neighborhood of Chicago. A few months after her birth, 1929, this nation was thrown into the greatest depression we've ever experienced in history. From 1929 to 1939, families of this country and around the world suffered the worst economic history anyone can remember. And it began to subside, only to see the beginning of World War II begin. Such was the time of Roselle's first 10 to 15 years. Her beloved father lost most of his savings in the stock market, and the suffering brought low her mother's. Still, Roselle found a way to rise above the problems. Everyone who has met Roselle was immediately smitten by her quick smile, her positive energy, and her natural joy and charm. Her joie de vivre was her leading characteristic throughout her 93 and a half years. The passion for entertaining and lifting other spirits led her to love and excel in theater and dance. She even attended the Fine Arts School at DePaul University. She married Lawrence Lowry Leviton, and they were blessed with the birth of Fred and Vin Neal. While raising them, Roselle also worked part-time, sometimes at department stores and often in the bill collection departments of various businesses. Her busy schedule did not deter Roselle from role modeling a clean freak demeanor and a determination to keep her home in perfect order. Only after Fred and Neal were adults did Roselle and Lowry Pat divorce. For many years, she stayed in Chicago. When her father, Hank, moved to Florida and needed help, it was Roselle who went to be with him. She loved her father and took great care of him for the rest of his life. After he passed, Roselle stayed in Florida, but the distance and 2 knee surgeries taught her that being alone and away from Fred and Neal was not right. From the earliest moment, Roselle adored Anne, Fred's beloved wife, and Anne became the daughter she always wanted. So in 2005, when the time came to move, Roselle naturally chose to come to Denver to be with Fred and Anne and their children, Brandon and Tori. Neal and his beloved Wendy were in California, and they in turn were blessed with Natasha, Sasha, and Misha. Roselle moved into the Allied Jewish apartment in Al Kavod and joined Temple Sinai in 2005, where her son Fred was president. She made great friends at both places and her passion for knitting benefited the charitable knitting group at Sinai, and almost all of her friends and family received one of her beautiful scarves. How many here have one of her scarves? She went to Israel with Rabbi Zverin and became an adult bat mitzvah at Sinai, learning Hebrew from the late Artie Wanda. Susan and I adored Roselle. She always lifted us up, as she did everyone, with her wonderful smile. Even when she fell and had to spend time in rehab, Roselle made fast friends with whomever was her roommate. One of the visits I had, she was really down because one of her favorite roommates at the rehab had gotten better. It went back, and she was so forlorn. And I said, "Well, you'll get another roommate." She said, "It won't be the same." She adored her friends. It is as if Roselle wanted to provide for her children and friends all that she didn't have growing up. She gave love and joy. She was generous and cared deeply about others. She was the kind of person who would buy and store a dozen little gifts just for the surprise occasions when she was visiting others. She didn't want to come empty-handed and wanted to find any way possible to lift up another's heart. Well, she certainly succeeded, except for today, as we're brokenhearted, as we say goodbye to Roselle. She touched our lives and will forever be remembered as a blessing. I know many of you have thoughts and memories to share. I call first upon her oldest son, Brad.
Oh, you were doing this.
Hold on 1 second. I just have to pull something up to my phone. And I want to thank everybody for being here. To everybody that's important to us and to Roselle. Some of you knew her. Some of you knew her very well. Some of you didn't know her as well and are here for us. So we thank you. And we're so glad that some of these others are able to join us virtually. One of the better things about the pandemic that's happened has been the fact that funerals can be enjoyed, so to speak, but you can get a much wider audience this way and bring many more people to an event that they wouldn't normally come to. I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I think highlighted Roselle's life and are reflective of what she was all about. One of the things she wasn't a comedian, she wasn't funny, but either purposely or by accident, she did a lot of very funny things. And we have a lot of memories of some of the really fun things that she did that I think were representative of who she was all about. One of the things is, I don't know how many of you know that, but she was hypochondriac beyond what's normal. I mean, she would go to the emergency room about as frequently as I go to the health club, which is 4 or 5 days a week. And I remember I think it was the last visit to the emergency room. Interestingly, once she went into the nursing home, she rarely got sick, although she did get COVID there twice and had very mild cases both times and was okay, which I was surprised because she had chronic bronchitis and you would have thought it would have really impacted her. But I think it was the last visit to the emergency room. I got a call at work, which had happened a fair amount of time. Your mom's in the emergency room. And I'd say, okay, I'll come down and I'll meet her. And they were going through her health history, even though she had been to the Rose ER, I don't know how many times, they keep asking you again. And so one of the questions they said, well, do you have any, they ask you about your what's wrong with what you've had in your history. And she says, well, I have COPD, which she did. And she said, but I got it from secondhand smoke from my ex-husband. Well, she smoked like a fiend. And I could not stop laughing. And I think she believed it. Yeah, she really believed this. I also wanted to talk a little bit about her driving. how many of you have had the privilege of driving with Roselle. She invented a lot of curse words at other drivers. And she was sometimes impossible to be in the car with. In fact, she would go, turn here, turn there. No, no, no. She came, when she first moved here, we're going somewhere and she's giving me this turn here, turn there, turn wherever. I think she made Ann cry one time when she was driving. And I pulled over to the side of the road. I said, Mom, I've lived in Denver, I don't know how many years at that point in time, but it was a lot more years than she had been here. I said, if you say one more word, you walk it home. Never heard again. So, Brandon or Tori, you guys going to talk about your trip to Florida? No? Go ahead. Why don't you talk about it? Okay. They're going to give you more driving stories. There's one thing I wanted to read, though, that came from cousin Lil from Chicago, who I think is listening, and I cannot find her email. But I'll try to summarize it. I don't know why I can't. Stuff doesn't come out of my phone the same way it comes up on my computer. She talked about when she first met Roselle, how welcoming she was, and that, as you all know, that Anne is from Argentina. Her family emigrated here, and Lillian said that when they got here, they weren't as accustomed to the way American life is, and that she was just so welcoming to her and to everybody else. And I think that's, a great tribute to her. She was non-judgmental. She accepted anybody for what they were, and rich or poor, it didn't really matter to her. And hopefully that's something that lives on with all of us. So thank you again for being here, and we'll talk more later on.
Thank you, Fred.
Well, everyone, thank you all for coming. Very pleased to see everybody here. Well, when I think of my mom, I think of her infectious laugh. I think of her upbeat personality. It's always upbeat. And I think about how all of my friends, thank you. And I just think about all of my friends growing up, just love my mom. Every one of them. Everybody wanted to come over to my house. And I think that was probably true with Fred as well. But it was definitely true with me. And it just says so much about her personality and how she was social. She was just very outgoing and very friendly. She made friends wherever she went. I mean, these are just qualities not everybody has. There's a couple specific things, though, that were really special about her. Her spaghetti and meatballs, for example. The whole neighborhood wanted to come over. She made the greatest spaghetti and meatballs, and I'm telling you, it was like a holiday for everybody. So that was one of my fondest memories of her. And the other one was also food. Chopped liver. This woman can make chopped liver like you've never had in your life. So as a kid, I would help her grind it in that little red grinder we all remember. And, I'm 7, 8, 10, I don't remember. But I'd help her make it, and she'd do it. And then as I got older and graduated college, I moved to California along with Wendy. And she would come out every days off, and she'd bring a big cup of chopped liver. My friends would not stop talking about it for the whole year. They just thought it was the greatest thing. And in fact, it was a requirement. She had to come out every year with the chopped liver. So and now my daughter's trying to recreate it. She got part of the menu, the recipe from her when she was here on our last trip. So she's going to try to redo it. Anyway, so those are a couple of my fond. I have a few others that I'll share later today that I don't want to share here. And, I'm going to miss her. She spent the last 15, 18 years with my brother. My father moved to California with us, so she felt it best to be in Colorado with Fred. And I do want to add one thing. I'm very grateful to the all of the help you gave my mom since I wasn't here to do so. That's something I'll never forget for the rest of my life. That was just, it's so special. You took such good care of her when we could. So anyway, thank you guys. Thank you all for coming. And let's all keep these fond memories of her in our hearts forever.
Brandon, Tori, what a-
Hey everyone, I'm Roselle's first grandson, first grandchild. That's I hold proudly. A lot of what's been said, I mean, I would echo the infectious laugh. She just had just that giggle, that kind of down to earth sense of humor that, I'll just remember her forever by. It didn't matter. The situation, she always found humor no matter what was going on in life. And so that's something I would, not forget about her. And what my dad was talking about with her being kind of unintentionally funny, as recently as a few months ago, me and my wife Carmel went to go visit her, and we told her we're engaged. And she says, "Brandon, you're a big dummy. Hold on to her. Make sure you hold on to her." Just so many of her little quirks and quips. When we'd be driving, visiting her in Florida. Most of my life, she's been in Florida. We'd be driving, and instead of calling somebody a moron when they cut her off, she'd say, "No, they're a more off." So she'd scream, "More off!" Like every time somebody would cut her off. Meanwhile, she probably was the one doing the cutting off, not necessarily a great driver. But that leads me to, man, it's almost a story that's too hard to believe. So me and my brother, I was probably 12 and 9, something like that. We went to go visit her in Florida like we did every year, usually in the winter. By ourselves. And so she decided to go visit her brother Chuck and his children and his wife and family and all that. We had never met for many, many, many years. So we go to, fly to the Fort Lauderdale area, and then we drive to Orlando. I can't even remember if we went to Disneyland at that point. Right, it's north. And so we have a lovely time meeting everybody. We take off. And so, I was a teenager, so I was like sleeping in the car on the way home. My daughter does the same thing, they love to sleep. I don't know what Tori was doing, but we're driving, and then I wake up probably an hour later after we get in the car, and like nothing is looking familiar. And I'm like, where are we? It probably actually was 2-3 hours into the process. We realized we're actually not headed to Miami, South Florida. We were on our way to Jacksonville. And so she drove several hours out of the way, not even knowing that she was driving north versus south.
I think it was 4 hours.
It might have been 4 hours. It was a huge period of time.
Opposite direction.
She was irate. Really, she could only be irate at herself, but she was irate. I had never seen her that mad. I mean, I didn't know how to console her, what to say. I was 12 years old or whatever. But yeah, it's only Grandma Rosie would something like that would happen. We got home safe. It's a big laugh now, but it's just she's something else. I am blessed to have had her live until I'm 43 years old. I've got to, since moving to Denver 3.5 years ago, gotten to spend time with her I never would have gotten to spend. And then the most important thing is having seen her the most recent couple of times, I could just tell and I knew that she wasn't suffering. And that is something really to really be grateful for. That I could see her pass in a way that was sort of peaceful and just dignified. And so, for that, I'm grateful. I'm grateful to God, and just sitting here, grateful that I had Grandma Rosie this long in my life. So, thank you all for being here. I love you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you all for being here. Grandma Rosie was a passionate lover of life and those around her, and ahead of her time in many ways. Here's one of her stories. Back in the 1930s, and even still in some isolated pockets today, left-handedness is frowned upon. She stubbornly refused to switch to her right hand in school, demonstrating courage at a very young age to advocate for herself and stand up for the rights of those who might be a bit different from others. As the only surviving lefty of direct descent, I pledge to continue to fight for minorities of all margins. Over a decade ago, when I revealed to her that I had a non-traditional boyfriend, she did not flinch in assuring that she loved me more than ever for my courage of self-expression. One of her greatest strengths was advocating for your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free and the Lazarus Statue of Liberty. And something we will always share. Roselle Leviton was a patriotic American in many ways. An undisputed beauty of the ball with an infectious laugh that we keep talking about and an inspirational courage. I will fondly remember her elegance, grace, and charm. From building couch cushion forts as a small child in Chicago, to robbing us blind nearly every time in a game of Monopoly, and sharing in the sanctity of the Sinai Seven, B'nai Mitzvot in Israel in 1995, and singing along to the music at Kavod and Allied Jewish Apartments, and known as Chicago Bistro, Grandma Rosie's joie de vivre just sounds better in French. Joy of life, simply unparalleled. Hine matov umanayim shevedakim ganiavcha. Behold how good and how pleasing it is for us to sit together in unity. Just trying to find a prayer of positivity in a time of grief. May the memory of Grandma Rosie be a blessing and inspiration to us all. Thank you for being here.
I'm Wendy Leviton. My mother-in-law was a force of nature. I remember the first time I had any encounter at all with her was on the telephone. And I just, with my gaping, with my mouth open, and barely able to get a word in edgewise. But the love and the acceptance was overwhelming to me. She was incredibly generous. I remember getting presents from her for our bridal showers. She gave me a fur coat. She gave me a gold ring. She gave me a bowling ball. Stars along the way and just so much more. Anyway, I just needed to share that and to say how grateful I am for her part in giving me this wonderful family. Thank you.
Hi, you all. I had thought about speaking, and I don't know that I can do it. Can you believe that, Anne Leviton? There's just so much I want to say that I can't say. And so, all I'm going to say is, do I want you out? No. She's pretty much been my mom for so many years. Kind of, because I had lost my mom so many years ago, and she never had any daughters, or she just had sons. And I mean, I've known her since I was 17. It's just, and so I kind of became her daughter, and she became my mom. And so that's why it's so hard for me. I didn't think it would be. And then I spent about 6 hours in her room the day before, and I couldn't pull myself away. And I didn't know she was going to die that night. I mean, in the middle of the night, or well, on Monday. I was there on Sunday. I didn't know. For some reason, I just couldn't. I started cleaning her room. I mean, I was just doing dumb stuff just to find an excuse to be there. But you know, one thing, and so, yeah, I just didn't react the way I thought that I would. And you know what? All of us, well, not all of us, there's some young people here. It's also the end of a generation. I lost my father, you know, Lori, that was also like another dad to me. And so our kids, you know, their grandkids are gone. So this is really, as Bonnie and I actually were talking on the phone the other day, and you said, this is it, Ann, right? I mean, you said, this is us now. And you all know what most of us here. And that's kind of sad to me, you know? So for us, it's the end of the generation. And I'm gonna miss her a lot. And I got too many stories that are just funny to me that you don't need to hear. But anyway, thank you for coming in spite of some, we've had people with COVID, in fact, our dear friend and Jeff and Kate, that were in the car because they couldn't pull themselves away. They're in their car with their mask, and they said, you know, we're not gonna come over, we're not gonna do this, but we just had to be here. And so it's very much appreciated, plus others. So all of you take care of yourselves, please. Okay, and goodbye, Mom.
In addition to what they shared today, at this moment of the service, again, when we get back to Fred and Ann's, there'll be something to eat. Afterwards, we'll have a chance at the end of the service, which will be around 3 o'clock or so. We'll also invite others to share. In the meanwhile, on page 3 at the very bottom, if you wouldn't mind joining me as we say, birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage, from childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again. In all the sickness and back we pray to help again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat. Until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high place along the way, but having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage from birth to death, to life everlasting. On this next page, the El Malay Rachamim, the memorial prayer that makes mention to her Hebrew name, Rachel Bat Hershon, it speaks of her ongoing spirit, her neshama, her soul, Yitzro B'Tzoha Chayim, a soul that is bound up with Chayim, with life. Her soul is bound up with Chayim, with the living, with you. As we chanted, if you'll please rise. Amalei Rachamim Shochem B'Maromim Amsem Nocha Nechona Al Kampei Hashchina Amalo Kadoshim Torim, Zoharati Hamazirim, and Nishmat Rachel Bar Hershel, Sharakano Olama, Began Eden, Yemenuchata, Tachin Rachamim, Yashireha, Setekenafad Olami. Yitzroar, Yitzroar HaChayim, En Nishmata Adonai, Unachalata, V'tanuat V'shalom Mishkava, V'nomar Amen. You say together, O God, exalted and full of compassion, we pray that you will grant us peace and eternal comfort in your sheltering presence. The soul of our beloved Roselle. God of mercy, protect her Shama forever. And her soul will be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Adonai, you are her portion. And she rests in peace. And let us say, Amen. I would like, if we place the conscience, so actually place the remains in the vault. I have heard from Israel, so they're going to find the crew here. So, even another, here at Fairmont, you can't have a full Tabora. But I do ask, and Feldman's been so generous in providing for us earth from Jerusalem, from Mount Olives, actually, the most significant place in which we can be buried, but not who else can be buried, right? So they've been arranging for us to get some of that earth here. So we're going to have the family. It's just a sprinkling on the casket, and then it will be raised, and at the conclusion we'll have the Kaddish. So we're just 2 seconds. Okay.
By the way, the flowers at the top were daisies. That was her middle name. Daisy. Yeah. Oh. What's her name? That was her name. Yes, I know.
On page 5, we find the words of the Kaddish poem. The Lord established we say here. And of course, we'll say it again at front and end. On page 5. We say, Yitgadal v'yitgadah shemei rabah, v'alman v'rachmu v'yamei paputem, v'chayekon v'yomei akon, v'chayedukon beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman tavrim v'imru, amen. Shemei rabah v'lorat, v'elam olamei olam, yitvarach v'yishtavach, v'yitba'ar v'tromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitadeh v'yitadar, shemei v'kudashah, Ve'ela mincho berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, ve'amira v'chama v'yomru amen. שלום הברדה משלום, וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום אמרונה, ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. We say for the ties of love that death cannot sever. This last page, page 6. For the ties of love that death cannot sever. For the companionship we share in a long lifetime. Those gifts of heart, mind, and now become a precious heritage. For all this and more, we are grateful. Now help us, O compassionate God, not to dwell on sorrow and pain. Help us instead to find within our hearts the courage to return to the tasks of life and its joys. Amen. As we are all gathered together, let us turn our hearts to Fred and Neil and Pam and Wendy and the whole family. Just say, if you repeat after me, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem,
המקום ינחם אתכם,
V'tov Sha'ar Avalei Tzion V'Yerushalayim.
כל שאר העבודה ציון וירושלים.
May God comfort you along with all the more in Zion and Jerusalem. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for this.
For those of you who are coming over to our place, as you know, parking is an issue, but if you can fit in the back lot, just crowd in there, and if you can't find a place on Broadway, if you go on Second, just east of Lincoln, there's usually street parking available. If you don't want parking, you need on Broadway. So, thanks.